Hello and welcome to,
Hey, we like your pod.
and we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, and I'm joined as always by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. And tonight, our very special guest, Andrew Mertig, draft aficionado. We're going to just, we have, I shouldn't say we, I have so many questions for you, Andrew. But first question is, how are you? It's good to see you. What's new?
Doing great. I'm always super pumped to be asked to be back. I think this is 3 or 4 years in a row. So excited to have this conversation. Like life is crazy, but anytime you get a chance to just pause for a little bit and talk some draft with some cool folks, that's fun, right?
Love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
Yes.
How was your week, Maddie? You're all dressed up. Tell us about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I started a little late today because I was running back from a fancy work thing for the place I work, University of Cincinnati. It was the annual alumni banquet, so there was like speeches and meat and dessert and shaking hands and stuff. And I couldn't get out of there as fast as I wanted to, unfortunately. But still, I made it in less than 10, so not too bad. But that was lovely, and the semester's getting close to winding down, which means everything's a little more crazy at work right now, but mostly crazy in a good way. So I'm having a good time. But more than that, Dawn, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. This is awesome to be here with you. I've missed you. Andrew,
Yeah,
I love seeing you.
same.
I'm really happy to have you here tonight. And just jazzed to be here, guys. Dawn, how about you?
And
How'd you-
hello to the chat. Hi, Mark. Hi, Joe. And hi, True North. It's great to see you. Mark is spitting some facts about the Packers draft this season. I'm excited to be talking about that. I did a little bit of cramming yesterday. So, Iowa, Joe, no, Matt did not have a parole hearing. You look very nice, Maddie.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see. Yeah, it's been 3 weeks. It's just like time flies. I've been just very busy, mostly, a lot of good stuff, some good things. I don't know if I mentioned last week on Easter Sunday, my 90-year-old mother broke her ankle in 3 places and ended up in the hospital, and she had surgery the following day. They said, because she's 90 and blah, blah, it might be a few days for surgery. They did it the very following day. She has been such a champ, and she's almost ready to go home. So we could not be more thrilled about that. That's been, it's just horrible to see your mother hurt herself, especially when they're that old. And I thought she was just mentally going to crumble over the whole thing, but she's just been such a champ about it, which is great. It's really good for her. And
Mhm.
she's excited to be able to go home and,
Nice.
getting a lot of things set up. And of course, Lori she does the heavy lifting, so to speak, because she's the one who lives close by. Hey, did you guys notice? Because I was kind of keeping my eye on things with her and everything. I'm kind of hyper vigilant, right? And then the last 2 nights in southeastern Wisconsin, there were like a million tornadoes. They had to evacuate her in the hospital.
Oh, geez.
Did you hear about all those tornadoes in Wisconsin? It was great. And flooding?
I saw the flooding coming through my Twitter timeline or my feed or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about the tornadoes. No, I missed that.
Serious stuff. So, folks in Wisconsin, I know a lot of you are from the Wisconsin or would love Wisconsin like we do. Hey, hopefully you weren't affected and you're safe and dry because it was pretty serious. Is April? Is it supposed to rain? I don't know anything about weather where I live, so I'm
April
just like, what
showers,
is
they say?
happening?
Right?
Okay.
That's pretty extreme.
And Mark says baseball-sized hail in Madison.
Oh,
That sounds like it would hurt.
yeah.
I hope you stayed inside. Anywho, so guys, I'm full of questions. Can I ask can I ask you some questions, Andrew, before we get started? Because I have so many.
You can ask me anything.
Like,
There you go.
okay, all right. So, okay, so the main needs for the Packers: defensive tackle, cornerback. Obviously, I really miss Jair. Edge rusher, O line, of course. Of course, that should be the number one in my opinion, but I don't know anything. And then what else? What else do we need? Is that right? Did I say that
Well,
in the
you've
right
named
order
most
too?
of the position groups at this point, so yeah, no,
True.
I would agree with you, right? Like on the
I had a
surface,
person in mind. Yes, yes.
absolutely. On the surface, I think nose tackle specifically, when you're talking defensive
Mm-hmm.
line, that seems like a pretty significant hole in the roster. Cornerback is huge, and I would
Huge.
argue they probably could draft 3 in this class, and like, maybe the third one would be like borderline making the roster, but I think there's a lot of room
Right.
there. Offensive line, as you mentioned, they need depth specifically on the interior. Edge rusher, they're always looking to throw somebody in that room, but I think specifically, we don't know how Mike is going to start the season, so
Right.
you're going to want another body there. I think sneaky, like under the radar needs, people are talking about backup quarterback, and that certainly makes sense. Although I do think they'll probably sign a veteran after the draft. So maybe
Okay.
a developmental quarterback somewhere. Running back to me is a big one because I
Yeah.
don't trust Marshawn Lloyd to be healthy at all.
Yeah.
And so with Emmanuel Wilson gone, Chris Brooks is
Yeah.
fine, but like I would like to see like a dynamic player to back up Josh Jacobs for sure. And then now wide receiver probably is not a need in 2026, but will be in 2027. So again, like you start to get into like finite resources. You only have, what is it now, 8 picks in this
7.
draft, and
Mm-hmm.
so like that's only 8 available opportunities. I do think they'll probably be active in veteran free agency after the draft and maybe acquire a player or two to fill in some of those spots. But yeah, there are needs for sure.
Lots of needs.
Yeah.
Yes.
No shortage of needs. But when you look at what those needs are, Andrew, where do you think is like the strength in this year's draft that would be like really well worth, trying to get someone in to help with those needs versus it's not as good a class for one of those positions and it might not be worth trying to even go with that this year? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you believe like mock drafts, and so like at the end of the day, it's like there's the people who are insiders and their mock drafts are based on information, but not
Right.
necessarily as much feel. And then there's people that like are really good at evaluating that maybe don't have all those insider resources. So you try to combine those things together. There's a tool you may or may not be familiar with, NFL Mock Draft Database, which really like aggregates all of those things. It gives you a general idea of where players might be. And I think the mock draft community, like the NFL draft community in general, is pretty good at locating players in their ballpark. We get surprised every once in a while, but I think it's pretty good. So if you take a look at that and you are willing to believe that that's a accurate resource, to me, the cornerback strength in this draft, I think a lot of the second round corners are going to get pushed up. And so if the Packers want to get one of those tier 2 cornerbacks, they're going to have to trade up in the second round. Maybe they're willing to do that. Maybe they're not. If they want like a true nose tackle, I think there's a lot of those guys. And I think they could stay at 52 and get a really good one. I think there might even be some, and this is really rare, that they slide into the third round. I think they could have a chance there too. I like the depth there. So ironically, this is the first time in a long time where the Packers' needs and the strength of the draft have aligned pretty well. I think this is a good wide receiver class. I don't think you're going to get a great one on day 2. Like, maybe they don't find a Devontae Adams or a Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb in the second round. But I think there's really good receivers as they go on. So I could see them addressing that on day 3. Maybe even targeting the pick that they got for Dontavian Wicks to replace Dontavian Wicks. But I think that's another strength as well.
Good summary. Thank you for that. Maddie, thoughts?
Yeah. so obviously we can only ever guess what's going to happen, and that's kind of the joy of doing the work on the draft and thinking about any given week when we have a game, like what are the strengths of the team, what are the strengths of our team, what are the weaknesses. We can only ever guess, but we come to like well-informed people like you, Andrew, to get your perspective on this stuff. And so when you talk about like there are probably corners and nose tackles we're taking in the second and third rounds, if you had your best guess, I guess, for a second round corner, who are maybe two names we should be like, trying to like read up on ahead of time that you think might be possible?
Yeah, I think it's easier to kind of talk about like who's definitely going to be gone, right? So there's two corners that I think are like consensus tier one. That's Mansour Delane out of LSU, Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee, although he's got some injury question marks all of a sudden, so maybe he slides a little bit. But like those two are probably gone. Chris Johnson of San Diego State is my favorite player in this whole class. Obviously, like the news came out that the Packers were connected to him. I'm a San Diego State homer. I used to work there. I would love that. Some people that I really trust in the draft community are saying he's probably going to sneak into the end of the first round all of a sudden. And that doesn't surprise me at all because I love his tape. He's a super athlete. Maybe he's available. Probably not at this point. Colton Hood out of Tennessee is a name that I would watch out for. I think he's really good. I think there's some characteristics that would make him an interesting fit in Green Bay. Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina is really good, but I think he maybe is a little out of the Packers strike zone as well. Avion Terrell is a good corner, but like didn't test well, and I don't know that he's really the Packers type anyways. So like round two, Colton Hood's somebody I'm all of a sudden very interested in because I was all the way on the Chris Johnson hype train, and now I just think he's out of reach. And so Colton Hood out of Tennessee, really intriguing guy. Maybe a guy that could be available in the third round, but I wouldn't necessarily cross him off as a second rounder, is Malik Muhammad out of Texas. He's somebody I like way more than I probably should, but he's a big time draft crush. Like Chris Johnson, Malik Muhammad, those are like my guys in this class, which means the Packers will never touch them because they do not draft players that I have
of course.
affinity for.
Right. They always do the unpredictable. I think Zach Cruz was mentioning Domani Jackson.
Yeah.
Blocking focused. Oh, wait, sorry. Fast zone fit corner. I was reading the tight end. Sorry. Fast zone fit corner, developmental starter upside is what but do we need more than developmental starter? I mean, starter, yes, but do we need a project? We need help in that position, right?
I have Domani Jackson rated pretty high. I think he's like my 58th overall player, but NFL Mock Draft Database has him in day 3. So predictively looking a little later, and I think that's exactly the kind of player you want to get. They can project him in the 6th and 7th round if they want to. Maybe he's more of a 4th round pick. But yeah, like Alabama defensive back, love that. Probably shouldn't be jersey scouting, but like he's a fun player, and he's been coached up. I think he's really good. I think he's going to be a really good athlete. Probably takes him a little longer to come along, but yeah, that's a player that I would have my eye on as well.
Okay.
We have some other like specific players that folks are mentioning here in the chat. So I'm going to highlight some of them real quickly here. Let's see here. So Joe mentioned Damian Martinez could be a sleeper for the roster. And then he also mentioned Dalen Everett. And Mark mentioned here that, Malik Muhammad got up to 190 at his pro diet. So Andrew, thoughts on those names? Oh, also, sorry. And also Mark mentioned Big Citrus, who, of course, a lot of people are talking about as a possibility for us.
Yeah. So that's Dominique Orange. Big dude. Iowa State defensive tackle. I know he was connected a lot to Green Bay very early in the process. I think he is the cover picture of the Cheesehead TV draft guide. Like really good player. I think he is a run dominant kind of guy, and maybe he actually like initially we were talking about him as a second round pick. Maybe he slides a little bit more in the third. I think the Packers would like him either way. At pick 52, you're probably drafting a guy with a third round grade anyways, but like that's an exciting figure, because for me, like, I want the Packers to address nose tackle a couple times in this draft and really like fix that, so we don't see Derrick Henry running for 800 yards against Green Bay in an important playoff game. Some of the other names that were mentioned, Iowa Joe mentioned Damian Martinez. He's a running back who was on the Seahawks last year. I think he finished the year either on their practice squad or active roster. But like, those are the kind of players to look out for potential, like, quote unquote veteran pickups. And I would look around the league. There's always good running backs you can find. And so if the Packers don't address that need, and I just did a Packers mock draft where I just couldn't find the running back fit that I wanted. And so it's like, running back's a position where you don't necessarily have to draft a guy. I'm not saying find a undrafted player, but like there's really good players like Damian Martinez floating around the league that could be. Oh, nope, I'm wrong. Packers signed Martinez late last year to the practice squad. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. So he's on a futures contract. So he is actually on the Packers. I completely forgot about that. Good call.
Me too.
Thanks for jogging my memory. But yeah, like those kind of players, like nobody even knew who Chris Brooks was 2 years ago, right? Like Emmanuel Wilson, another great example. The Packers have been really successful in developing those guys, and I think that's a good idea for running backs. Dalen Everett was also mentioned. He's a corner. Let me see. Where do I have him rated? He's out of Georgia. I have a like really early second round pick. I agree. Like, this is a 9.89 RAS guy, like super athlete. Definitely a Packers type. He's one that, like, for whatever reason, I've had my blinders on when it came to Everett, maybe because I thought he would be gone out of the Packers strike zone. But the closer we get into the draft, the more I think it is a really realistic possibility that they jump up from 52 to like early 40s, mid 40s. It's not going to cost you very much. And just go get whatever player that they really prefer. Maybe that's a corner. Maybe that's one of the defensive linemen.
So when you look at the... go ahead, Dawn. Go ahead.
No. Go.
All right. Everyone's so polite. So looking at what you know about who might be available at corner or at D-line in the second round versus the third round when we're picking. Andrew, if it was your call and you're in the war room and you're going to, say who we're picking here, would you go corner then D-line, or D-line then corner, or something else, knowing who might be there?
Oh, that's so hard. I think a lot of it depends on who's there. The early returns, like we're talking again about mock drafts, which are imperfect. You use, whatever your favorite mock draft simulator is. It's not always going to be completely accurate and give you like super realistic situations. For me, where I've been happier with the way things have turned out is going defensive lineman first and then corner in the third, because I think there is a good group of fun corners that can be had in the third round that the Packers would also be interested in. But when I look at the particular need on their roster, I could see a way where they say, all right, well, we need to find that corner in the second round because they are going to be a day one starter versus, you can probably find like a okay run stuffing nose tackle in the fourth round if you have to, knowing that he's going to have no pass rush upside, right? Like, this is just a true run stuffer. Maybe they're higher on a guy like Nazir Stackhouse than we think. So maybe they don't identify that as the biggest need. But for me, it's like the situations where things have turned out really well in my mock draft scenarios have been going nose tackle first and then corner later, and maybe multiple times.
Interesting.
Okay,
so if we got Big
let's
Citrus, he could go up against Big Sleepy. That's what we'd be looking at there, right?
Yeah, well, the fun thing in this class, we have Mackay Lemon and then Dominique Orange.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're getting our fruit in for sure. We're avoiding scurvy at all costs.
Yes.
um, if you're okay, so let me throw a wrench into Matt's hypotheses. You're in the war room there, you're in the draft room. And this is why this is fun to be a fan year round, by the way. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, join us, because if you're a fan of any team, it's kind of fun to do this off-season stuff. So I think it's super fun and geeky and weird and fun. Okay, so let's say they have their eye on a corner that dropped down that looks like somebody they didn't expect, but they really want them. I'm not going to name a name because I just don't even know, because I don't know. But and then all of a sudden, Kristen Miller drops down too, and you have to choose between Kristen Miller and a really good corner that they had their eye on. What would you do?
Yeah, that is a very difficult situation. I think in that case, it's whatever player they have rated higher.
Highest.
For me,
Okay.
yeah, like that's such a lame answer, and I apologize for it. But like for me,
No,
Kristen Miller is like a middle of the second round quality player. So, if he's rated higher than the corner on the board, go for it. Most of the corners that I have identified in the second round, I would rather have than Kristen Miller, but
okay.
but he is a really good player.
I know a lot of people, his name comes up on a lot of podcasts talking about the draft. So, in that he's the most Packersy Packer type that you can, find. It wasn't, was he San Diego State as well? No.
No, Miller is from Georgia.
Oh, he's Georgia. Okay. There was another San Diego State guy in there too. Were you able to take in any of the games when you were at San
I
Diego
did
State?
not attend this year. I was there last year. There's another corner who probably isn't going to get drafted, Bryce Phillips. So good cornerback room. I don't know if there's other players in that conversation.
Okay.
So Don had mentioned that the one corner has been seen as being, or been cited by folks as being like a very Packersy player. So Andrew, when you hear those words about a corner, like what does that mean to you?
Yeah, typically like they want their corners to be at least a minimum height. I think I'm trying to like remember what the actual like thresholds have been historically. It's like 5'11" or 6 foot. They like them around 190 pounds or heavier. And then typically they're looking at the agility drills and like a certain 40, right? Like you want a sub 4.5 40. Somebody will post it in the comments, like exactly what it is. Yeah, 5'11", 190.
5'11", 190. Okay.
Now nobody is doing the agility drills. like
yeah, I hate that.
So few players ran the shuttle or the 3-cone. So that's really hard to evaluate anymore. The other thing that I always say about the thresholds, and sometimes this gets me in trouble, like, yes, they are trends, and I'm not saying don't follow them, right? They're not going to draft a really unathletic 5'9" corner. Like that's too far away. But remember, the Packers' thresholds used to be they never draft old players. Well, then they drafted Devontae Wyatt in the first round. And they never draft linebackers high. And then they drafted Quay Walker. And then, Edge Cooper not far after that. So, like, trends are trends until they're not. And then, so, like, I don't always hold Brian Gutekunst to the exact same draft standards of Ted Thompson, much less Ron Wolf. And that's what a lot of like Packers draft prognosticators want to do is like, this is written in stone and they will never violate it. They do occasionally, but it's good rules to follow. So for a corner, what I'm looking for is somebody who has like those kind of like height weight, right? Typically, they don't go for the like overly like tall guys because their agility scores aren't good. But we have to remember also this is a very different defense. And so like are the preferred metrics going to change slightly? not big things, right? Like, so we've seen this with interior offensive line where they've kind of gone like bulkier and a little bit less athletic. And so like you look at Aaron Banks and he violates all of their like previous thresholds. But part of that is like he's a pretty good athlete for a guy his size. So they probably have some sort of sliding scale to say, well, we're looking for a 325-pound lineman. We're not going to hold them to the same standards as a guy who's like 305. So that's all I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, typically, like, there's a lot of corners who actually meet that. This is a good class for like the outside corners as well. So pretty much all of the names we've talked about hit those kind of thresholds.
And so you mentioned two corners that are like your guys, you said, right? So what is it about those two that, and sorry, Don, I was monopolizing there, but like, what is it about those two guys that make them like your guys?
Yeah, for Chris Johnson, it's just like a little bit of everything. I think he's like the perfect size for a corner. I actually like, I've fallen in love with these like really tall, super like athletic freak guys that are like built out of, you know, they're the gym rats. And that has burned me on quite a few occasions. Not everybody needs to be like 6'3", 215 at corner. But for me, Johnson is like that perfect like size where he's incredibly smooth. He has really fluid hips. His athletic testing is fantastic. People are going to knock him because he played in the Mountain West, but like he's just a good player. Like, there's just something about him I really, really like. He's not in that tier 1, but of the tier 2 guys, he is the one that like I really, really like, and his testing just solidified that for me. And then Malik Muhammad, really kind of the same thing. Like, I think there's just a trait, like for corners, I try to just watch what they look like in and out of like their break. So like when they're backpedaling and then how they transition. And that to me for Muhammad was really smooth. I liked it a lot. So those are the kind of things I look for. There's plenty of guys that are also like really, really good. I just maybe didn't fall in love with them as much. Like Brandon Cisse, pretty much the same grade as Chris Johnson. There's just something about Chris Johnson that I love when I'm watching him, like this smoothness that I think transitions really well into the NFL.
Cool. And did you mention kind of on that Green Bay Packer type prototype, did you mention, because now I've already forgotten, I should be taking notes. I told everybody to bring their notepads and I didn't bring mine. Stukes, Igbinosun, and Everett. Did we talk about those three in terms of
we have not talked about them? Yeah. And so like
they're two.
It's a different conversation between like what I think about them, because I don't necessarily like only focus on the Packers. Like I'm kind of like I'm really high on Treydon Stukes. I like him a lot. He is probably more of a safety or a slot only player. So like around the NFL the last few years have been some players that have come in and it's like, is that player just like a traditional safety? And then they've actually been like really elite in the slot. Like Jalen Petrie for the Houston Texans is a really good example of this. He was seen as like this great center field safety prospect. And in fact, he's an elite level slot player. And Stukes is kind of the same thing. Really good size, physical, super athletic, maybe not the smoothest athlete. Like I think the Packers would probably have him disqualified as a cornerback if he did the agility testing, because I think he's pretty stiff, which is weird because he plays in the slot, but he just makes it work. Some of that is physicality. Some of it's the straight line speed. Some of it's just like, you know, being a really heady football player. I don't think he would be on their radar. Igbinosun is somebody I like a lot as like a true outside corner. Let me see where I have him rated 56. So like right in that strike zone of the second round. His athletic testing wasn't particularly great. He's not going to be 22 yet at the draft, so he's a younger prospect. I just liked him. I don't know if the Packers will, but he's a great example of somebody. people thought like this guy could be a top 10 or 15 pick before the year, and he just never quite developed at Ohio State in that way. Maybe he's a little stiffer than we thought, but to me, like some team is going to be really happy with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, it's a super fun name to say. Igbinosa.
Oh yeah,
It is.
I just love
I had to
that. I love
train
saying
myself.
It is. It almost sounds Japanese, but I could be wrong. I wasn't really thinking about that. I love to figure out what names, where they come from. I digress. Speaking of something you said, I can't remember exactly. Listener mock draft, is that happening this year?
No, unfortunately, because I don't have a regular show. So I'm doing more of like the special series for Pack-A-Day, and so it's been hard to put. It was always a labor of love to do that. It was a lot of coordination, and so yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have the crew together to do it.
It was a well-loved labor of love, though, for sure.
It was, and I always loved Maggie's reaction to my crazy picks.
I actually do need to go back into last year's and see who got what picks right. So I have it saved.
It's like,
but,
okay, yeah, no, it was always fun. I was always like, what is Maggie going to say about my pick this year? I sometimes think I did things just to see what she would say. Off the wall picks. No, it was very fun, and it kind of helped me get really into the seat, not to guilt trip you or anything like that, but to really get into the draft season. So, but nothing's gonna compare to last year's draft at Green Bay. That was just so awesome and fun to watch every minute of it. Yeah. Okay, so Maddie, did you?
I have all kinds of questions. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no.
Okay.
I was gonna say, so more of a comment actually, Andrew. You mentioned the series you've been doing for Pack-A-Day. Like, what are the likely players they pick in round 2? What are the players that pick 3 or in the round 3? You know what I'm talking about. I can't talk all of a sudden, but that's what I'm talking about. We have shouted it out on the show already because I've really enjoyed that. Because I want to say, my brain, like I think many of us at this point who are like plugged into the content sphere, is just waterlogged with names and schools and measurements and trying to like sort it out, make sense of it because everyone has different opinions. I'm at that point now. It's just like it feels like I have a hangover, And so I want to tell you, Andrew, you're the person I go to just like try to sort that out and help it make sense. So I want you to know, like, you're providing a valuable service to a lot of us out here to help this all kind of sort out into ways we can understand it, which is why I'm asking you the kind of questions that I'm asking you, like, hey, who would be maybe the cornerbacks in round 2 or versus round 3? So to kind of pick that back up, we're saying so far, cornerback, D-line are very likely second, third round things, but apart from that, where do you think they might go if they don't go cornerback or D-line in like the second and third rounds?
Yeah, I think there is some buzz that they could take a receiver in one of those 2 picks. Just looking forward and saying, like, we're hoping to get the Watson extension done. We're not sure about Jaden Reed. Golden, like, they're hoping he develops. To me, like, you have so many swings of the bat at that position already. I know as Packer fans, we've become used to having, like, 5-6 deep on the depth chart. Most NFL teams don't need that. And so, like, it's interesting to me. I think they would actually be better off to have a shorter rotation at wide receiver. I know Matt LaFleur does not like that, and that has not historically been their plan. But I think, granted, you have several players that have health concerns, but outside of that, like, I think it benefits you to have people on the field more often and get into a flow, rather than consistently just doing line changes at wide receiver. So I don't love that investment. I could see them going offensive line. It seems like they have their 5 starters set, but after that, like, maybe not, and you can never have too much depth. So that's a really good one. I think edge rusher is the obvious answer here, because I do think that it would serve the Packers well if they feel like somebody is a difference maker to go out and get them. It helps with making the Lucas Van Ness decision long term. So if he doesn't show anything this year, you have a path to move on. They're going to need depth there anyways. So regardless of what your like quote unquote base defense is, that outside pass rush position is going to be really critical. So that's somewhere where I could see them going if they identify a player who they feel like can be a difference maker.
Makes sense.
What would you
Don,
do, Matt?
What I don't know, Don, because like I said, waterlogged.
Do you have anyone who just like floats to the top as like, oh, this is a really great player and this would fit for the Packers and might be available at number 52? Is there somebody like that?
Not for me. I'll admit, just enough ignorance.
That's
and I think part of the reason why I have a hard time making a good take on that is because, in the last few years, I've gotten like really into the draft stuff. Not as much as like, an Andrew or a Joe, but like, really excited about it because we had a first round pick. So I could like get really excited about who we're going to take on day one. And without that this year, I've had a hard time, as the kids would say, locking in, to see what is going on with this. So I don't feel as connected to it this year because I don't have that excitement for what's the first round person going to be. So that's why when you're saying, Don, oh, who do you think, Matt? I'm like, let's ask Andrew.
That's all right. That's a fair answer.
Do you have someone, Don? Do you have someone?
I was wondering if I would feel that way, but I still have the same kind of excited anticipation. And because the cool thing is watching players that you think are going, let's say number 10 or 12 or 13, and they're dropping and they're dropping and they're dropping, and it's like, oh, can we get him? It's like I get so excited on draft night for that. And then of course the Packers do something completely different and ignore that one, even though they're the highest one on the board for whatever reason. But I just still have a lot of excitement. But no, I'm not locked in to anyone yet. I hear a lot about this Kristen Miller, interior lineman. I think I can't remember who. Oh, I think it was Ross Uglum. Is that Ross who does Pack-A-Day draft? Players every week. So he's great. And I put a playlist together of all of his stuff, and I was just like listening. I didn't get through the whole thing. But every time Kristen Miller came up, he's like, oh, I had him in my mock draft. He turned up 51 instead of 52. And so I feel like I'm kind of attached to him because of Ross's excitement. And plus I looked at him up, and it'd be kind of cool to see him. I'm very worried about the corner position, and I'm very worried about the depth of our O-line, to be honest, because of the musical chairs the last few years. And I just want more stability around Love. I think that's going to make a big difference for us. So that's as locked up in as I am about anything. I'm excited though for the draft.
So, I think that point about like the O-line, of all the positions that kind of need some help, for me, the O-line makes me the most nervous because it's like if the O-line crumbles in the middle of a game, it's over. It's over. Like you could kind of get away with like one less corner in a game, more or less. If you bring in like a backup corner, you could be okay. But I feel like if your O-line falls apart, like nope, it's done. Like because we've seen that happen in playoff games with the Packers more than once.
Way
in the last
too much.
So it's like maybe it's a trauma informed take, but like I just get nervous about O-line depth, especially right now.
That's okay. I live my life reacting to trauma, so that's okay.
That's okay.
There's no shame in that. It's a traumatic world. Okay, so you really broke down the corners for us in really greatly, but did we break down the defensive tackles a lot? Others, I know I mentioned Kristen Miller. Is there anyone else that you have your eye on, or did we talk?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a couple of like really big audience mock drafts that have come out lately where there's like no defensive tackles taken in the entire first round. So the Packers may have some choices. There's some really like weird players, Peter Woods of Clemson, Caleb Banks of Florida, that are like these really like high level names that people just don't love. Like they haven't necessarily taken the jump we expected in their career, but they're still towards the top of the draft boards because of like reputation. You talked about Kristen Miller. We talked about Dominique Orange a little bit. Caden McDonald could go in the first round. That this is like a straight up nose tackle, big run stuffer in the middle. He's out of Ohio State. Probably a little out of the Packers' range there. Daryl Jackson Jr. out of Florida State, I love, might be available in the third round. And Banks also the injury as well. Right. Yeah. Somebody in the chat mentioned DeMonte Capehart out of Clemson, and he's more of like a day 3 guy, but I could see him getting pushed up at least into the third round. Super athlete. Really fun. He's one of my favorite players. He was on my top 10 list of like overall prospects for the Packers. I think he is totally their type of player. Maybe hasn't. There you go. Maybe hasn't lived up to, again, the hype of all of these Clemson prospects who never develop. But I think he could be a really, really fun NFL player as well.
Okay. I'm excited. See, I'm more excited now that we're talking about it. Okay, so we've covered like the top 2, what we think are biggest needs, but remains to be seen. So that's and then edge rushers. We kind of went through the edge rushers. Who are your favorite edge rushers? And
a little bit. And again, this is the name floating around the comments, but Dennis Sutton, who I thought was named Danny, but it's Denai apparently. Okay. I gotta check out more pronunciation guides. I take it, but edge rusher out of Penn State, crazy athlete. Like I don't know what is going on in the Penn State training room that every year they have these like super athletes. But 6'5", 256, like really amazing time. He was a 4.63 40, which is insane at 256 pounds, 9.96 RAS. He didn't live up to that. Like on tape, he doesn't look like that player, but I think this is a raw tools kind of prospect. If he had good tape, he's getting taken in the top 15 picks. So like that's what pushes them into a potential late second round player. And he's a player I could absolutely see seeing the Packers fall in love with and taking that like developmental track where like year 1, you're probably edge 4. You're going to get some snaps. Maybe it's a dedicated pass rush position. By year 2, we expect you to be a really good complement to Micah. There's a guy I love out of Michigan, Jay Sean Barham, who's kind of a linebacker and kind of an edge player. He's pretty light for a true edge, but I think you could probably play him an off-ball linebacker first and second down. He's really good going forward. And then maybe he's like a dedicated blitzer up the middle, or maybe he is like just a crazy bendy pass rusher on the outside. He's a fun physical player that I really like at edge as well.
Nice.
Couple names in the chat here too. Joe threw in Malachi Lawrence and also Zane Durant.
Yep. Malachi Lawrence, one of my favorite players. I have a sneaking suspicion he is going to get picked in the first round, but hopefully I'm wrong. This draft is going to be very weird. And I think this is one of the hardest to predict drafts that we've seen in the last 10 years. Like every player from 20 to like 45, I could see going in almost any order. So that, I always sort of poke fun at people that are like, there's no way he's going to be there. There's no way he's making it 52. Right. And then like it happens every year. But like in this draft, I'm like, Malachi Lawrence could go at 25 or he could fall to the Packers at 52. I don't know, but I really like him. That's a good call.
That's good. And I think that's why I'm really excited this year. There's like you said, a lot of unpredictability. And I think because of the players that are dropping and moving around, it's going to be really exciting, even though our first pick is at 52. I was just looking up on the roster. I'm like, who else came from Penn State? It was Micah Parsons on our team already. But one of my bosses back in the day was a former wide receiver for played for Penn State during their glory years under Paterno and all that jazz. And he's still very involved in their football programs. I'm always hearing about it. So that'd be kind of fun. I like that connection between Parsons and him. That'd be cool to have a Penn State dude. They seem to have really, they went through all of the, bad publicity and the whatever. The program took some hits for a while, but it does seem like they're really coming back strong at Penn State. I don't follow college football much, but like I said, I do hear about it all the time.
Their former head coach James Franklin was a elite level recruiter. They must have one of the best training staffs in like strength and conditioning programs in the entire like country, including NFL, because of the kind of athletes they produce. It just never leads to success on the field. Penn State is like just stuck in mediocrity right now, but they produce a lot of NFL level athletes for sure.
Well, and maybe that's all they care about, because that's where they kind of, how do we say it? In a legal way, that's how they make their money. That's how they operate. That's how they stay afloat. I was thinking about this the other day about college and how they make, turn their players into NFL athletes and stuff. Yeah, sure, winning and getting titles is important, but placing their players is a big deal for players to want to go there. And anywho, I digress again.
So I have one question
Okay,
for you, Andrew, if I can jump in here. My last question that I wanted to bring today for you is, so when I think about like the folks I like to listen to learn about the draft, apart from you, of course, Joe, who's in our comment section every week. Joe, I love you, man. His stuff on Ohana Packers Edition is great. But like Justice Mosqueda, Andy Herman, Tyler Brook, are folks I'm listening to a lot. National stuff, pretty much mostly just, I'm missing a lot here when I say this, but mostly just football, the Athletic Football Show and Mina Kimes. So kind of taking that collection of folks, knowing they're all like really great, who's somebody who I really am just totally missing and I should throw into the mix, and also who's somebody who's like really underrated that you think is doing great work in the draftosphere?
Yeah, I mean, I of course love our Packers community, and there's so many amazing shows out there, and just really good people to follow outside of even the shows. And you mentioned Joe. I was on with them a few weeks ago, and Brian Maffey was on with him a couple weeks ago as well. And then they're just people doing amazing work. Andy, I of course, like Andy, I consider a friend, and love listening to that stuff. I have not digested as much Packers related draft content as I typically do. I've been insanely busy in my personal life, and then also just like trying to put out some shows myself without the crutch to lean on of like Kyle and Maggie every week. So that's been harder from a national perspective. I don't do a lot of national podcasts, but like my favorite one is the Locked On NFL Scouting with Joe Marino and Kyle Krabs. We were really fortunate in our Pack-A-Day run to have Joe Marino on the show several times before he really blew up. And so like he's somebody I really love and respect. Ben Solak, who's with ESPN now, was a guest on Pack-A-Day with us as well, again, before he blew up. And he's really, really great at breaking things down. So like, I actually like his TikTok stuff, which is weird. Like just the short digestible clips where he'll like do film analysis. I get a lot out of that. So like, those are some of my favorite ones from a national perspective.
Nice. And I'll throw this on the screen too. Mark said Dane Brugler.
Oh, yeah.
Because Dane does stuff on the Athletic Football Show. I didn't say him specifically, but like, I mean, Dane friggin' Brugler, man, like kind of like the king of the written stuff for sure. So that's really helpful, Andrew. I appreciate that.
Well, we'll get into some of those. The only other questions, so we talked briefly about the O-line, which is what makes me really nervous. Is there anybody you have your eye on for O-line reinforcements in this
Just
draft?
a couple I'll throw out there. And I don't know if offensive tackle is necessarily where they go, but Diego Pounds out of Ole Miss, I think could be like a 4th, 5th round guy. crazy athlete. 325, really raw. This is a Maggie Loney, my guy. So good
okay.
name, Diego Pounds. That's excellent.
D'Angelo.
And then
I think it's D'Angelo. Is it?
no, that's D'Angelo
Is it
Pons,
Diego?
who's a cornerback out of Indiana.
Oh,
Very easily confused.
Oh,
Yeah.
beware,
Diego
folks, beware.
Pound. Okay. Oh,
You gotta watch
I
out.
was so confused.
Too many similar
Okay.
names.
Thank you.
And then
Thank you.
another guy I like is a tackle out of Kansas, Enrique Cruz Jr. Again, like a super athlete, really raw on tape, both Pounds and Cruz, like a lot of development to go. But I think like the Packers are going to love the tools, and they are confident enough to be able to develop somebody for a year to come around. So those are really like my two favorite.
Nice.
I like that. And we're going to want to hear, Matt, about who you are following for the best draft content next. It's time for this week's superlatives.
See, that time you telegraphed it a little too much.
I
Don.
know,
I knew it was
a
coming
little
that time.
too much.
You didn't catch me off guard this week for once.
I like to surprise Matt with that. It makes him laugh. I know that was pretty awkward. I didn't have that one ready in my brain. My brain was not keeping it. I'll just say mine really quickly. Well, there's more than 3 superlatives, but I think I already mentioned Zach Cruz, of course, Joe. On Ohana Packers, I mentioned Ross Uglum on Pack-A-Day with his feature that he does during the draft season, before the draft season, to get us all prepped up. Of course, the Athletic Football Show. The only draft guide I've downloaded so far is the Beast. I'm still making my way through that. I just love the Beast. It's a work of art. You have to have it just for anything, but it's great. It's searchable. It's super handy. And I don't find the Athletics print me. They do some mock drafts, and I don't ever find that what they pick for the Packers is even remotely close to what I think they're going to pick. Based on all of the, like what you said, our local knowledge, our wonderful Packers reporters who really are, dialed into the team. So, 600 and I think 29 pages, but I just love it because it's super helpful. And then I can kind of make lists and pull out from that and do, things from there. It just helps put them into a database and all that. But that's as far as I got. I haven't downloaded any other draft guides. What draft guides have you downloaded so far, you guys? Andrew?
I have not downloaded any.
You just do your own. You should do one.
Right now,
you
yes.
do one?
No, that's way too much work.
Yeah.
Significantly too much work.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, why doesn't Andrew? Yeah.
I kind of indirectly reference them all the time. So there's people that I know have more knowledge than I do. So like at this time of year, when I know my grades are final and I can't be corrupted anymore, I will go in and check those resources against mine. Cause I'm like, this is weird. I have a 3rd round grade on this guy. NFL mock draft database is saying he's going to go in the 6th. Like, what am I missing? And then sometimes I'm like, oh, okay. Like I don't change my grades at this point. Like I'm just done. But that helps me learn over time as well, to compare it to like Brugler or Daniel Jeremiah or whoever. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
That's funny. Don, you said something like, I haven't finished reading The Beast. I think you said something like that. I have a friend at work who I see maybe once a week. We talk football kind of on the way to our cars, basically. And I was like, man, just download The Beast. And he's like, yeah, I haven't finished reading it yet. I was like, nobody finishes reading it. Like that's
you don't read it.
Print out a copy, have it on your nightstand,
Yeah.
But it's amazing. As I said before the show to you, Don, I have 3 superlatives and like a 4th, like obligatory superlative for the week. The 4th one, of course, is just The Beast, Dane Brugler is a
Yes.
beast, and the work itself of the beast it's essential, I think,
Yes.
for most folks, especially those who aren't as in it as like Andrew you are, to kind of make some sense of the stuff. It's just super handy. And one of my favorite things to do is because I have it up on my phone during the draft. As soon as the Packers pick is in, I'm going right to Dane Brugler's anything he's written about that player. It's the first place I go for that. So freaking love the beast. But the Cheesehead TV draft guide I love a lot, and in fact that gets me into one of my superlatives. So I'm just going to transition myself right into that. Okay.
Yes, let's hear him.
What I love about the Cheesehead TV draft guide is that it's full of amazing information, like any draft guide would be, of course, but it's focused on that Packers lens, which of course it is. Why wouldn't it be, right? But within that, they also have these great articles to open up the draft guide. And they're always really good. The one that I loved the most, though, this year was the one that C.D. Angeli wrote. It was called Decision Factors, Why Ed Policy Chose Continuity Over Change. And it was a really interesting perspective on, Ed Policy had to decide who to keep, if he's going to fire, Gutekunst or Russ Ball or Matt LaFleur, like what to do with that. It's a big decision he had to make, especially like new in the job.
Yeah.
And C.D. Angeli got into like a lot of like his sort of take on what the philosophy is at work here. That's not passive. It's not like, oh, we're just going to stay the course. It's like, let's scrutinize and see if we can do better ripping it up and starting again, or if we actually are going to be better off like honing better what we just had this last 2 seasons even. How do we actually fine tune that so that we can get over the hump? And man, I'll tell you, it's a long article. It is. But that's because C.D. Angeli had a lot of really interesting stuff to say, really insightful. And I'd recommend taking the time to sit down and read that. Because I think a lot of people who will, download the Cheesehead TV draft guide will just kind of get past all the text, get into like the stats and stuff.
Right.
It's worth the read. It's a really good, good piece to do.
Yeah, they have some really good articles in their draft guide, special articles every year. That's great. Mm-hmm. Good reminder, Maddie and Joe. Joe said the only reason to print out the good draft guide is if you need something heavy to hit someone with. Not something I need. I just mean e-printing, so like you can search and copy and paste and play. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anywho. Yeah, it is a lot of work. But I think. I don't know. I was just thinking last night. It's like I think it'd be cool to have an Andrew Mertig draft guide. I was thinking that last night. Anyway, what's your next?
You may be the only person.
I'd buy it. $10. What else?
And did you bring any superlatives, Andrew?
I'm just gonna make one up on the spot, and yes. I don't know if I need to have an actual word for this, but. I will just say excited because this is fresh off the presses and no one outside of this show knows this. But my very last episode for the Pack-A-Day Draft series coming up is going to be a Packers mock draft. And I have Maggie Loney joining me, which I knew already. But also we're going to have Dusty Evely on. So Dusty, who does not traditionally do a lot of draft content, got convinced by a very
he's getting pulled in a little more every year.
Yeah. So that will probably release both. It'll definitely release next week sometime, but YouTube and audio as well.
Oh, nice.
I like the YouTube version. Will there be a video or YouTube audio only?
Yeah, it'll be a video.
Ooh, better yet.
Yeah, excited is the right word. That's exactly what I'd say now. I'm excited.
Yes. All right, Maddie, what else do you have?
What else I got? All right. So my favorite tweet since we talked last on. So this is going back a little bit, but it was still within the last 3 weeks. This was Bruce Irons wrote this. So, we know that there's this potential crisis with having to get replacement refs in. We know how well that went last time. Anyone who knows the phrase "fail Mary" knows exactly what I'm talking about here. So this is going back a ways. Let's see what was the date on this. Back on March 30th. Don, it's been a while since we've talked. So March 30th, Bruce Irons was posting on Twitter about this because there was some. I think he has like a screenshot of an article talking about what the refs union is demanding. So I'm just gonna read finally Bruce's tweet here. It said, "Okay. So the refs want 1. ludicrous raises instead of merely awesome raises. 2, no accountability for bad performance. And 3, get playoff assignments for being old. I'm having a really hard time siding with the league on this, or not siding with the league on
What
this
was the third one? Get
the third
playoff
one, get playoff
assignments. What?
assignments for being old, like doing them by seniority and not by like how
Oh,
good they are at their job,
oh,
basically. So
okay,
like I feel like those 3
okay.
points that Bruce made there for me are like, oh man, the refs union stinks. Like these are not things they should be asking for. Like, oh, maybe angry. So I've had that one kind of lingering in the back of my head.
The money is okay. The money's okay. I think they need just to have full-time refs and not have like people working in regular job. But I don't object to the money as much as the other 2 items.
Kind of infuriating.
That's just my opinion, just because you asked.
Sure. Yeah. Andrew, do you ever take on the ref situation?
I don't care because I'm not negotiating. I just don't want replacement refs. So give them literally everything they ask for.
What they want, right? Give
No,
them
I
all
mean,
the money, but
yeah. As Packers fans, we are scarred, and rightfully so. But like as much as we complain about the officials, it's a very, very difficult job. And so, I hope they figure out a way to get this resolved. But it doesn't look good right now.
They will.
No, it does not. Yeah, that's such a good point, Andrew. To like remind folks that it's a crazy hard job. I can't imagine doing it, and that's why we should have. Have them be a full-time employee and the off season they could be doing something related to the reffing, whatever that could be. I don't know.
Right.
But elevate it a little bit more. So it's like their job and not like their side gig, let's do it. Let's do it, man. So my last one. Worst news. Worst news is that, so ending on a bummer, unfortunately. Diana Rossini, all the stuff that happened with her being persecuted in the court of public opinion, quite frankly. I hate it. It feels really sexist, and she's an amazing reporter. It's a huge loss to The Athletic. She'll probably get a job somewhere else. I don't know, because she's really good, and I'm sad that I won't be seeing her reporting coming through in The Athletic and across on Twitter and stuff like that. It makes me really upset. I'm really bummed that she won't be working there anymore.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys what your thoughts were on that whole situation. First of all, it's not Matt LaFleur. It's somebody else's coach
that she was hanging out with. But didn't know they were doing anything.
I can see why, not the scandalousness part of it, which is what Lloyd was fired for. It was more of the principled thing. I can kind of see why, these articles were associated with her and maybe her relationship with, it might have tainted her objectivity in reporting. That's valid. That's a valid conversation to have. All the rest of it, the accusations and all the no, I agree with you, Matt. But it was just, but I think most intelligent reporting on it is really focusing on whether she crossed the line as a in a reporter as a reporter. Sorry, I can't talk.
There's a discussion that we have about ethics and reporting and stuff like that for sure. But I guess my real problem with it is it just seems like it went way over the line in terms of how people talk about it.
Exactly, it did, because it's just like. Right. It's just like the thing with Lloyd in the NFL Players Union. All the people who cared about was the receipts for the what was it, the strip club thing.
Right.
But that wasn't the point. But that's what people latch onto, and you're right. It's really unfortunate, and it's not what it should be about. And when you look at for example, The Athletic, the New York Times, their guidelines for what reporters should never have the appearance of having a personal relationship with the source, that type of thing, kind of makes sense. But it was really, really, really sad. Yeah, I agree. She'll be back.
I'll just say really quick, as somebody with a journalism degree, I completely understand the ethical principles, but can we not pretend that sports journalists have some higher level of expectations than political reporters who are involved with the people they're covering all the time, and that has real life ramifications. Versus
true.
If we're drawing the conclusion that this was an inappropriate relationship, and again, that's an if, not a for sure, but okay, it's bad, but what has that impacted? Is she a little friendlier about the Patriots and her coverage? Okay,
well,
I guess
it could have millions and millions and millions of dollars of impact, though, on an industry. So I get that part of it personally. I mean, multi-millions. If she's trying to frame something so that the Patriots get a player, that type of thing. That's what the argument has been, which I kind of get. But no, you're right. It's not like the military or something else like that is at stake. It's sports. It's money. It's money.
It's money, but
it's a lot of money.
Sports.
Yeah.
Well, and if we're gonna criticize people who are in any sort of journalistic space, at the same time that we have a part owner of a team as one of the top commentators in the league right now, that seems like
that's wrong too.
See, it feels super wrong.
No. Right. I agree. She's gotten dragged because she's female, because for a fact that the male reporters have close personal relationships with some of these coaches and GMs. They're just not holding hands with them, okay, or whatever, but they're having those same relationships. They just weren't caught. Yeah, I wonder I'm just curious who got tipped off, who followed them, what was this all about? Because she does say that it was, there was more to that story too, but we'll never know. It might come out. I think she'll land on her feet.
Let's not forget that she is was colleagues with people who are supposed to be independent journalists who just copy and paste text from agents nonstop. That is their job.
Right.
Yep.
Like Tom Pelissero, shout out.
Right.
Great gig if you can get it. But everything he writes is straight from the agents. So I don't know. To me, it's you're holding somebody accountable for something that you're not holding other people accountable. Not exactly the same, for sure. Different situation, but just seems a little hypocritical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because it's got this scandalous nature, that's why she got called out on it, where it's happening every day still. I agree 100%. That is sad. Yeah.
And on that happy note.
Well, I was going to make a joke. I'm just glad it wasn't Matt LaFleur and some reporter, because I just think it would be really super distracting and embarrassing for the team, for the family. I feel for the families too, of course.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So she'll figure it out. She's a smart lady. But it's not great. Right. It's not great to have those kind of double standards. You're right to call it out for sure.
Yeah.
But and you have a bonus, Maddie?
No, that was it. Just the bonus was the beast.
That was your bonus?
No, I am fresh out of
the bonus is the beast.
Yeah.
All right, Maddie. Well, that's just great. Any final thoughts before we bring her home? Chat or Matt or Andrew before we bring her home? Anything? We're going to tune into Pack-A-Day, right? For your Maggie and Dusty. Okay, that's Pack-A-Day.
Yeah, I have a first round, an entire first round mock coming out in the next couple days, and then nice. Probably early next week will be the Packers specific 7-round mock draft.
Nice.
I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, Maddie. Any final thoughts before we bring her home? Want to wrap
just to say, Andrew, I so appreciate you, giving us some of your time tonight. For all you've done to help me be a smarter Packers fan. More than I think you realize. You've done a lot to help a lot of people be smarter Packers fans, and I appreciate your hard work on that. Sharing your excitement about the draft and your skill at breaking it down. And it's always good talking to you, man.
I love being on, and the fact that anybody cares what I have to say is continually impressive to me.
Well, I will never forget your origin story. I meant to bring it up a little bit to remind listeners about you being a little kid and putting together your your drafts. You want to give us a quick? I'm sorry, I'm digressing. Now we're not concluding, but I just
Oh, we're
love that
wrapping
little
it up. What are you
story.
doing?
Yeah,
Sorry.
my very first, like, I remember being really, really upset that the Packers drafted Terrell Buckley over Troy Vincent. So, like, if you know who any of those players are, kudos, you're old. Terrell Buckley was a very undersized corner out of Florida State, won a Super Bowl with the Packers, but was not necessarily living up to the hype. Troy Vincent was a Wisconsin player who then would go on to be the NFLPA rep. I think he works in the league office now. I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. But yeah,
That
I
sounds
remember that. I
familiar.
remember cutting the mock draft out of the newspaper the Sunday before the draft, and like that was the only information that you could get in the
Right.
remote sticks of Wisconsin. And then eventually, like, bribing my parents or whining enough that they would buy me a draft guide, and then the onset of the
yeah.
internet and like really
Mhm.
being able to like get information.
Mhm.
In
Mhm.
2005, I was an intern at Fox 11 in Green Bay, and really messed up bad because I didn't know who Greg Jennings was when they drafted him. But I made it up, and hey, it ended up being right on accident. So, like, I have a long, rich history with the NFL draft. It's my favorite time of the year. So,
Mhm.
love the opportunity to talk.
Oh, thank you so
Awesome.
much again for
Awesome.
joining us. Well, Maddie, let's bring her home.
Yeah, I will. So, friends, we'd love to have a chance to interview you and shout you out. If you're a subscriber and a football fan, if you'd like to nominate someone to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know. Our DMs are open on all the social platforms, except for TikTok. Can you do DMs on TikTok? We're not on TikTok. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
Yes, Maddie, that's right, because we love you. We're so glad to know you, to be fans of you, and have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod, and we look forward to seeing you next week on day 1 of draft night on
Hey, we like your pod.